On a freezing cold night back in 1955, the city of Montreal didn't just lose a hockey game. It kind of lost its mind. An entire city just exploded in anger. And not over a goal, but over one man who was so much more than just a player. It's an incredible story of how sports can be about way more than what's happening on the field, or in this case, on the ice. So let's get into it. Can you imagine waking up and seeing this on the front page? We're talking about pure chaos, windows getting smashed, stores being looted, fires in the streets, and people clashing with police, all right in the heart of the city. And the epicenter of it all was the Montreal Forum, the home of their beloved Canadiens. And believe it or not, it all started with just one decision. And that's the big question, right? This wasn't just some fans getting upset about a penalty. No, this was about pride. It was about identity. It was really about the frustrations of an entire people just boiling over. So to understand the explosion, you've got to understand the spark. And that spark was Joseph Henry Maurice Richard. But to the world, he was just the rocket. And for the Montreal Canadiens, he wasn't just a star player. For so many people, he was everything. He was their fire. He was their hope. He was their hero out there on the ice. 50. This number is basically hockey mythology. Back in the 1944-45 season, Richard did something nobody thought was possible. He became the first player in NHL history to score 50 goals in only 50 games. It was just an unbelievable show of dominance that completely changed what people thought a goal scorer could be. And, he was far from done. When Maurice Richard finally decided to hang up his skates in 1960, he was the National Hockey League's all-time leading goal scorer. The final tally? A whopping 544 career goals. For years and years, he was the guy every other scorer was trying to live up to. On October 19, 1957, he shattered another ceiling. He became the very first player to hit that 500-goal mark. I mean, when he scored it, the announcer in the Montreal Forum literally declared, "Canadiens goal, scored by Mr. Hockey himself, Maurice Richard." His teammates? Yeah, they knew what he was about. This quote pretty much sums up his legendary focus. He was not on the ice to make friends or to set up other guys for goals. Nope, he had one job, one mission, and that was to put the puck in the net, period. And his toughness was just off the charts. Get this, in a huge playoff game, he gets knocked clean out, unconscious. They stitch him up, he's still totally dazed, but the coach sends him back out there. And with just minutes left in the game, of course, Richard scores the winning goal. There's this photo of him, bloody and disoriented, shaking the goalie's hand, and it became one of the most iconic images in the history of the sport. A true warrior. But, to really get why Richard meant so much, we have to zoom out from the rink. Because back in the 1950s, Quebec was just simmering with tension. And Richard wasn't just a hockey player. He became a symbol in a much bigger fight. Okay, just look at this chart. In the 1950s, if you were a French-speaking Quebecer, and that was the vast majority of the population, you were earning, on average, 35% less than your English-speaking neighbors. Almost all the top jobs, the positions of power, were held by the Anglophone minority. You can just imagine the deep-seated feeling of inequality that created. And that feeling was so real, it even had a name, la survivance, which means the survival. It was this mindset, this whole cultural movement, all about preserving the French-Canadian language and culture. They felt like they were constantly under threat of being swallowed up by English North America. Their very identity felt like it was on the line. And this is where hockey basically becomes a mirror for society. On one side, you've got Maurice Richard. He's French-Canadian, from a working-class background, the fiery hero of what they called le petit peuple, the little guy, the common people. And on the other side, you've got the NHL president, Clarence Campbell. He's Anglophone, Oxford-educated. He was the living embodiment of the English establishment. Their feud wasn't just personal, it felt like a clash of two different worlds. Okay, so with all of that bubbling under the surface, let's go back to March 1955. A fire had been building for years, and a simple hockey game was about to light the match. So here's how it all went down. On March 13th, Richard gets hit with a high stick, and he just snaps. He viciously attacks the guy and even hits a linesman who tried to stop him. 2 days later, Clarence Campbell lays down the law. Richard is suspended. Not just for a few games, but for the rest of the season and the playoffs. To the fans, this was like a betrayal. Then, on March 17th, Campbell makes a huge mistake. He actually shows up to the next game in Montreal. The crowd went ballistic, someone threw a tear gas bomb, and the whole arena had to be evacuated right into the middle of an angry mob that was waiting outside. The destruction was just mind-blowing. The final estimate was around $100,000 in damages. Now, in today's money, that's over $1.1 million. Dozens of people were injured, more than 50 stores were looted. This wasn't just some angry fans, it was a full-on riot. So who could possibly stop all this violence? Well, there was only one person they would listen to. Richard himself went on the radio and asked for peace. He basically said, "Look, I'll take my punishment, I'll be back next year, and I'll help the team win the cup." He was the only authority that mattered to those people. And you know what? He kept his promise. So the riot finally quieted down, but its impact and Richard's legacy was really just getting started. It was crystal clear that what happened in Montreal was about so much more than a hockey game. This quote from a super famous Canadian story called The Hockey Sweater just perfectly captures how much Richard was a part of growing up in Quebec. Kids didn't just want to play hockey like him, they wanted to be him. He was a living legend, a symbol of French Canadian strength and pride. And his legacy today is just massive. A lot of historians look back at the Richard Riot as one of the sparks that ignited Quebec's quiet revolution in the 1960s, this huge period of social and political change. When he passed away, he was the first athlete in Quebec to ever be given a state funeral. His gear is considered a national treasure. And of course, every single year, the NHL's top goal scorer is awarded the Maurice Richard Trophy. It's a pretty rare thing when you think about it, for one person to become the symbol for the hopes and frustrations of an entire community. It kind of makes you wonder, in our world today, who carries that kind of weight? Who out there really embodies the struggles and the triumphs of a whole culture, all on their own shoulders?